dinging going on, so that means we must be live.
We're live or close to it. I don't know whether anybody. Well, I hope folks have electricity tonight to watch. I mean, I hope we're not in another rolling blackout or off shedding of power. I mean, it sounds like a boa constrictor shedding his skin or some crap. And look,
Well,
I don't even know why I'm so pissed off. My electricity actually never went off, I don't think. I mean, I was at Caddo Lake when all this transpired, but I didn't get any dings from my network being down, and my wife didn't call and say, hey, our electric's out. Did you pay the bill?
well, my electricity didn't go out. I don't know what anybody's talking about.
Yeah, you're
that
up there in the privileged North Country in Benton.
That must be a Sobo thing. I just don't know.
Well, a lot of people tried to make it out to be Sobo, justifiably so, but no, it was 30 some odd thousand customers. We're going to talk about this some more in a little bit because we have to save something for the actual show. It might be a very, very short show.
That's true, but remind me, there's a significance to that being a Sobo thing. And, let's just put the tinfoil hats on and thing, and we'll go there. But yeah, let's go to the break and come back. Looks like Representative Orgeron just messaged me and said that he will not be able to come on, and probably has something to do with these.
Maybe they're down there legislating things. Maybe they're down there legislating a mandate to have redundant electric providers up here in the North Country.
Well, no, they're literally in Natural Resources Committee doing everything in their power to stick as much carbon in the ground as they can possibly do.
Great. We can't even provide electricity on a fairly consistent basis, and they're going to start shoving carbon dioxide in the ground and trying to contain that. That's just... I am so glad. You can send him this message. Maybe he'll watch the show. Nothing against you personally, Joe. But I'm so glad y'all have time to figure out putting damn CO2 in the ground, but you can't even figure out how to keep a technology going that we've had for over 100 years now. It's called electricity.
So I texted Joe. He's literally in the committee right now. And I said, I'm watching you in the committee while we're live right now, telling my audience that you're working late. And he responds, he says, trying to deal with these carbon sequestration bills.
This is crazy. All right. Yeah, I agree. Let's go to the break. I'm going to try to lower my blood pressure just a tad. And when we come back from the break, you and I will be dancing. I promise we're going to be dancing.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. I mean, you've ran us off a cliff before, so why not dancing? Okay.
Let's go, Thelma. So here we go. All right, folks, y'all know the drill. Y'all know the drill. We're going to do our countdown and our little intro deal, and we'll be back in about 2.5 minutes. Like, share, tag this out. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, we'll be back in about 2.5 or 3 minutes. Here we go.
A lot of the back office on the politicians that they think walk on water, they would be shocked. There's an old wound from a knife in my back that just is giving me heck lately, and it's just really irritating, so I have to kind of wiggle around a little bit.
I titled it A Shot Across the Bow of the Good Old Boys.
Just, they feel helpless, they don't feel heard, they have nowhere to turn.
Some Republicans as well believe that government has the answers. And let me tell y'all something. I don't know anything government does well. Nothing.
Aren't there laws that say that you have public meetings so that the public can have accountability of their elected officials?
As a member of the media, I'm very concerned about what I've just heard.
Well, I'm not thinking Star Wars at all. I'm thinking zombie apocalypse. Oh, folks coming from the border down there?
Yeah, it's going to the border. It's actually going to Mexico and Brazil.
Doesn't mean they interpret it the same way that I do. For instance, the Second Amendment. I take it very literally. That's been interpreted different ways in the court system all the way up to SCOTUS.
We're still right now combined on both pages and YouTube at 264 people watching. That is amazing, folks.
Through conscious, shocking actions, which in turn would enrich sitting city council members Scott Irwin and David Montgomery Jr. In theory, you know, it's an every week thing. We got to double check and make sure it's like a miracle any of this actually works.
This live broadcast is brought to you by the Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 25 years in the mortgage business. Pelican Training and Consulting. Reach out to Julie Ferris. Smarter Geek, making technology easier. And folks sharing information and watching out. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go. And, well, I say it almost every week. Here we are. We're back. Are you here, Mr. Lowry?
I am here, so I'm going to. Right now, the head guy of Exxon is speaking in the Natural Resources Committee, and again talking about carbon dioxide sequestration. And people are probably like, why are you watching that? Because it's a big deal, y'all.
Look, we've already put nukes in the ground, all kinds of hazardous waste. I mean, what the hell is a little CO2? Really, let them do it. It's only our tax dollars and the government subsidizing another industry and a lot of people besides us and us folks watching getting rich off of this. Let them have at it.
But here's the problem, Rex, is we're going to not only pay for it right now, but then we're going to have to pay for it again after it starts hitting everybody.
That's the normal thing.
When DC gets tired of paying for putting it in, and then all these people leave and go away, who's going to get left holding the bag? It'll be all of us.
But look, all right, so they're extracting natural gas, which is under pressure. You know, those great big dinosaurs, as they rot and the gas is released and all that, it builds up pressure. We're just taking that out of the ground, and rightfully so. Hey, I'm a fan of natural gas and dead dinosaurs. And then we're putting CO2 back in, which is part of the atmosphere. And I realize it's not pure CO2. There's probably some other molecules mixed in there here and there, but we're just exchanging for one or the other. They could be sending our tax dollars to Ukraine. I think Trump's finally trying to put the squeeze on that. Let them spend some of the tax dollars, at least domestically, sticking CO2 into the ground. Why don't they stick it in Coke bottles and help carbonate more Coke or Dr. Pepper?
That's a lot of Coke to have to drink, and I think
we drink a lot of Coke.
I don't drink Cokes, but I think somebody.
But Coke sells a lot of Coke.
Somebody with the last name of Kennedy in D.C. right now would have a problem with that. I'm just saying.
Well, all right. So look, what do all the cool kids drink now? Red Bull? Don't they have these carbonated energy drinks? Hell, I don't know. Start injecting it in the carbonated energy drinks. You literally need the CO2, and then it mixes in there, makes carbonic acid that rots your teeth out and helps the dentist out, like our good friend Haygood. See, it's going full circle.
I don't know. Paul Johnson, hey, Dole Hills. I am very intimately aware of Dole Hills and everything about that. I've been in and out of that plant a bunch. And for those of you that don't know about what Dole Hills is, that's a power plant down off of 49, just before you get to Alexandria. If you notice, kind of off to the right, looks like a wood mill or something, but then kind of behind it, you see another, that's a power plant. And then you go a little bit further down the interstate and you'll see this big old huge mountain with these bulldozers. Well, that's all of the ash that comes out of the ash from burning the coal. Anyway.
Interesting. Hey,
big mountain of it.
I didn't know it was my birthday. Judy Stewart said, "Happy birthday, Rex." Is it actually my birthday?
Happy birthday, Rex.
What the hell? I mean, I might be losing my mind, but I can still loosely figure dates. I don't think it's
Let's
June
join
yet.
in and sing "Happy Birthday to You."
It must be a rebirth day. I don't know. It's not my birthday.
I'm not going to torture you anymore, Rex, but happy birthday nonetheless.
Okay, if y'all say, hey, I said that I was going to have us dancing after we came back from the break, so let me live up to that. Hold on just a second. Give me just a second here and be prepared to
Thank
dance.
you very much, Jessica Langley Maddox. I appreciate it.
Oh, happy birthday, Duke. Well, happy birthday to you, Duke. Is it really your birthday?
It is really my birthday. I have been
Oh,
on the face of this earth for 55 years and hope
well,
I make 56.
well, I learn something new every day. My co-host and cohort for many, many years, I didn't even realize it was your birthday. I wasn't paying attention to Facebook today. Hey, you get to dance. You're doing the electric slide on your birthday.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah. See?
And
Isn't that a cool graphic?
Well, assuming that's me with the glasses.
No. I have on the glasses, but I don't have brown hair.
Well, you drew me with hair, so I'll take it.
Those little minions didn't get the caricatures quite right, but they got the SWEPCO and the SPP and doing the electric slide right. It's close enough. I was in a hurry.
Yeah, close enough. So, is this one of those tinfoil hat kind of nights?
No, the tinfoil hat kind of night would be where I go down the rabbit hole of maybe Adam Bass's bill for the small thermonuclear reactors. Is this whole electric going out was part of a deal to prime us and prompt us to get behind the small nuclear reactor, the home nuclear reactors that he's pushing for.
You just jumped way past, just went all the way past go.
You asked.
You just went all the way, didn't you? Well,
I'm in one of those moods tonight. You asked, you're getting the answer.
I have no doubt. I see you're in that mood, definitely. So I put in the folder in Bass's nuclear bill or Bass nuclear PDF. So everybody's talking about the SWEPCO stuff, and you were supposed to be leading on the SWEPCO thing. That's your story.
Did you want me to lead on that and not go down the rabbit hole of the nuclear reactors?
Well, we were going to kind of build up to it, but
okay.
You just went straight nuclear right out of the gate.
May as well. All right, so get me back in line and lead me along.
So as everybody knows, a lot of people's electricity went out in Bossier. And it just so happens to go out in Sobo. And I don't think that's by chance.
No, I can tell you it was on purpose.
Okay.
They said that in the meeting with Foster Campbell, one of the public service commissioners for what is it, District 5 or whatever. They didn't specifically say Sobo. They didn't selectively pick people's houses, but it went off on Sobo on purpose because that was one of the regions or areas that was selected to cut the power off of.
Do you really think that's the reason?
That they cut the power?
That they just randomly chose that region?
They randomly chose 30,000 people, some odd, give or take a few thousand.
I know, but I'm just saying, I have this is a tinfoil hat kind of night, right?
You're going to lead me right down to the small home thermonuclear reactors that Adam Bass wants everybody to have, and I'm not opposed to, by the way.
That's low-hanging fruit. That's too easy.
I know.
This has to be more sinister than that. And I can see now that y'all aren't thinking hard enough here. Even our friends in Sobo aren't thinking harder. They need to think a little harder. I don't think they're even thinking enough about this.
Well, maybe not, but let me say, I've watched, and it's an hour-long video. We don't really have time to go through it tonight, but I did watch, and we do have a copy, but KTBS has it as well. The meeting between the SPP and SWEPCO presidents, both of them, and Foster Campbell. There were some interesting quotes in there. They didn't admit to what the problem was, and I don't know, maybe it's security, maybe they did accept ownership and take ownership of it, but they never did admit what the actual problem is. So there's that whole rabbit hole in theory. Maybe the problem was South Bossier. Maybe it was the port down there. They were pumping too much water.
Or CO2, pumping too much CO2. But,
yeah.
Well, still, I've not heard anybody come up with this theory. Again, I'm wearing my tinfoil hat, but why Sobo? Why Sobo?
Why was Sobo in the list? Or are you saying that only Sobo was affected?
Why was it in the list? Why was Sobo part of the ones that got cut? Why down there? Why wasn't it all
Because
the
Brian
fat rich,
pissed David Montgomery off.
Why wasn't it all the rich folks up here north of I-220, like you said? Why wasn't
Y'all
it
heard?
us?
Wait a minute. Hold on. Pause. Hold that thought for just a second. Now, you just heard Duke earlier say his electricity didn't go off. Then he said none of the rich folks up north had their electricity go off. And hint, Duke lives north of town. Therefore, you must be secretly rich and you've been holding out on.
No. I'm just saying, because all those Sobo people say all those rich people, North Bossier, snobby North Bossier people, Nobo people. And so I'm just quoting some sources in Sobo, what they say.
The irony is Foster Campbell's electricity went out and the president of SWEPCO.
Ding, 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 ding. I think we have a winner. Isn't it ironic that the Public Service Commissioner who makes rules about SWEPCO's power, his own power went out? He happens to live in the place that was selected for the power to go out.
And maybe it's because they're trying to grease the wheels so he'll be on board with home small nuclear reactors for everybody that Adam Bass is pushing. I want my small nuclear reactor. If the military can have them to power their boats and power their subs, I want a nuclear reactor in the house to power my electricity. And I'm going to cut SWEPCO out.
But I have a problem with that. I'm all about nuclear. Look, I want one up here in Benton. I'm good. You have one down there in Bossier City. I have one in Benton. I mean, look, we can have Marriott down there. He can have one in Sobo. That's fine. You know, but here's the thing. If we're going to have nuclear reactors, then what do we need that water line for the port to pump that CO2 through to Bossier?
No. Oh, well, we need it to be pumping water at some point because you got to have some cooling ability because it's not cold fusion. We're still on fission.
I guess I'm dropping too many bombs here on your surprises. I mean, you know, like we said when they built that water line from Bossier City, it can flow back and forth.
Wait a minute. What is dry ice? I figured this out. Yes. So follow my little bouncing ball here, folks, for just a minute. Bear with me for a minute. It's one of those days. So carbon capture, CO2, dry ice is carbon dioxide. So we need the carbon dioxide frozen to cool the small home thermonuclear reactors that Bass is pushing, which we'll get federal grants and dollars for, and SWEPCO will be able to do whatever they want to do, and hopefully we won't have any more brownouts. But we need this frozen CO2, which the port is going to now be transporting instead of water, to cool all of our home nuclear reactors. We'll have to buy the frozen CO2 from the Port Authority, I guess, and David Montgomery can insure it, and our insurance is going to be through the roof because our legislators down there are playing tiddlywinks with everything but decreasing our insurance rates. There you go. That's it in a nutshell.
No, see, you're wrong on that because they did pass a bill today that they were going to give commercial vehicles that had a vehicle tracker and camera in there a discount on their insurance.
Well, I got two things to say.
Well, there was some questions asked, and one of them said, well, why should people in their POVs not get that same discount?
Sure. I want it. I've got one for you. We were discussing this earlier today. I've got insurance with State Farm. I can download State Farm's app that tracks my driving habits and immediately get I don't know what it is. It's like a 5 or maybe more, 5% discount, even though I've got a perfect driving record. I can download that app and immediately I get a discount. So again, I'm going to lean more towards.
What happens if you don't drive good?
They increase my rates. Gosh, Duke, why do you think I haven't put the app on? What if I get in a hurry one day and don't drive like they want me to and they raise my premiums again? But Hear me out. So if the insurance company can put this app on there and immediately drop the rates, again, it just leads credence to this thing that we need more premium reform than we do ambulance chasing lawyer tort reform. I'm not saying we don't need tort reform as well, but I am leaning heavily on the side of the insurance companies are shafting us more than the lawyers, and that's horrible to even say coming out of my mouth.
I don't know where I'm at on it, but what I do know is I'm tired of having to drive to somewhere in Bossier or even into Shreveport for a doctor's appointment or whatever, and 90% of the billboards are attorneys telling you make them pay, make them pay, promoting this lawsuit thing, and the statistics bear it out that we sue people more and more and more. And oh, by the way, as someone who has been a victim of countless lawsuits in this town and by people that a lot of y'all have voted for and that y'all support, lawyers that you support, I mean, it we keep electing people that are pro sue the hell out of everybody. Let's just feeding like damn vultures on it, and I'm sick of it. I'm not even just sick of the attorneys. I'm sick of the low rent people who are advocating for nonstop suing and crap.
Well, look, we are not that far apart on this issue. We're very closely aligned.
No, we're not.
The only place that I would say we slightly deviate is the insurance companies are screwing us worse than the lawyers, and that's saying something.
Well, to that point, here's my position. I have not studied that side of the equation as much as what I should study it. I haven't. I've studied the lawyer side of it and the frivolous lawsuits, and there's blame 100% there, and it needs to be cleaned up on the tort side. But also on the insurance premium side, admittedly, I have not. Although I will acknowledge that, some of our previous guests and some of the information has been shared with us lends credence to, why has the insurance lobby and the actuary information that they have, why has that not been used? That is a valid question, and I am interested to know why that's not being used and put out there.
Well, we did an analysis. Let me pull it up real quick of HB 427 by Representative Dennis Bamberg, who, wait for it, is an insurance guy too. Imagine that. And it's a pro-insurance bill. That wasn't being prompted by any of our, mutual friends that call us and text us all the time when they want us to go on a tangent about something. That's an unbiased analysis of that bill, and it's straight up nothing but pro-insurance. Nothing for us consumers of the insurance industry. Thanks, Dennis. We appreciate that. Wait till we see you wait till I see you at the next PEC meeting. We're gonna have a chat about this.
I'm putting in a word for you to be the chairman, by the way, too. So
no, I'm gonna be kicked out the first meeting. Don't worry. It's a goal of mine.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. I will yield the chair. It's going to be awesome. Anyway, so I'm speaking of Bamberg. It's interesting that you brought up Dennis because today there was somebody called me regarding a bill that Dennis Bamberg has, and I've not even read the bill, but as they were describing it to me, and this may be what you're talking about, you can clarify if it is. But he was talking about how for people who have been in an accident and severely injured or what have you, that some portion of that bill or a majority of that bill, the monies, rather than going to the injured person, would be taken and put into a trust, and disbursements would only be made at the approval of the insurance company when the person that was injured has a bill or needs something paid, and disbursements would only be made at that time.
But wait a minute, it's called a reversionary medical trust. Do you know why it's called reversionary? Do you know who the money reverts back to, hint, hint, in if the person who needs the medical care dies, it
I'm
goes
guessing
back
it's
to the
not.
insurance companies, folks. It's literally nothing but a pro-insurance bill. Again, thank you, Dennis Bamberg. That's what we've all been screaming for. Something to help out the insurance companies. There's no self-interest there at all on your part, right, Dennis? Come on the show. You can call us or text us.
Yeah, I haven't read that bill. I need to read it and wrap my head around it or whatever. The way it was presented to me was kind of the way you're articulating it. I'm not there yet. I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But what I would say is my opinion is that doesn't address the problem. The
No,
problem
not at all.
the,
Yeah.
the problem is not people who are severely hurt. That's not the problem. Obviously, if anybody is severely hurt, or in an accident, that's why you have insurance. But it's these people, like in the case of my daughter,
Right.
who is being sued by somebody who literally at the scene, they didn't have no damage to their car, is out walking around saying, "Oh, I'm fine, didn't want to go to the hospital," and now they're damaged for life, and they've got an attorney months later and suing, and they need $1 million or some bull crap like that.
Yeah, I mean, look,
That's the problem. That is the,
I agree 100% with you with that. So we don't disagree at all in those cases. I'll say the
and those people are dirtbags, and
yes,
it's our neighbors. It's people in our community that we all think are good people and decent people, and they're no better. I mean, actually, they're worse than the lawyers. The lawyer is just trying to make a living. He's doing it. I'm not defending them doing this, but they would not have this job and do this if there weren't these leeches and vultures that live among us trying to feed off of their neighbor.
oh, I agree. It's a vicious cyclical thing because the more they feed on it, the more the more the folks can get, the more they feed on it, the more the vultures, the lawyers have to get involved, and they're going to make their money. And I mean, it's just the circle. We don't disagree on that at all, and that part of the tort reform. And I'm no expert to say exactly how to fix that. I can just tell you that Dennis Bamberg's bill ain't nothing but a pro-insurance bill and does nothing to address what you just said, dude. Now, I'll say this: the others,
That's my problem on the surface with
right?
Bamberg's bill, as I
Well,
appreciate the way
all
that
right.
it is. And
It,
Ryan Haygood made a good point. The, the bill hurts the truly injured. I
yes,
think that's probably accurate. And what you said, it doesn't address the root problem of the freaking leeches and trash among us.
right.
It doesn't
Yeah,
address that.
one of the problems with Bamberg's bill is the let's see, here is it. I've got it in our analysis. The trustees, which are appointed by the insurers, can delay or deny necessary medical payments. They don't have to be doctors either to be on to be the trustee. So who are they to know? I mean, because look, let me paint the other scenario, the other end of the spectrum from what you're saying, which is not really hurt at all or just barely minimally hurt and wants $1 million. Well, the other side to that coin is how can you put a price on, let's say I get in a wreck and break a couple of vertebrae, on lifelong pain and suffering because of that, even though I could potentially have surgeries or whatever to help address it. How can you actually put a price or put a value on having to live the rest of my life? And no, I have not been injured like that. I'm not saying that. I'm hypothetically here. But how can you put a price on that or a value on that, or say, that's just worth what it costs for the treatment, $10,000, when that's with me literally for the rest of my life? So there's two ends of the spectrum. I completely agree with your analysis. Bamberg's bill is BS and does nothing to address that except help the insurance companies. Surprise, surprise, he's an insurance guy.
Well, I'm not ready to say it's BS out of respect to Dennis because I haven't read it. I don't know the actual language. All I know is what I've heard, and if the way it's described to me is exactly how it is, I would be against that bill. I don't. I mean, I think if it's the way it's being described, I mean, I don't think that addresses the problem. It doesn't.
Yeah. Well, and to be honest, since I've released that a couple of days ago, I think about 4 days ago, we put it on Bossier Watch. I have not checked the
well, now
stat.
I know.
Yes, you've not been paying attention to what we release.
People blame me anyway, so I just trying to chase the bouncing ball.
The one that's the tinfoil hat with the small nuclear home reactors and the SWEPCO thing. I'm gonna have that authored by Duke Lowry, the birthday boy. That's the tinfoil hat deal. It fits you perfectly, but
I'm not done with that. We got off of that subject on this rabbit of insurance, and I think we're going to talk about insurance probably more in depth next week.
Right. Yes.
We
might have a special guest on. We'll see how it all works out. We were gonna probably have a guest on tonight, but we were supposed to have Joe Orgeron on. He, at the last minute, I put no, but at the last minute, he's still, I guess they're in session, or what committee did you say they were in?
Yeah, natural resources. I mean, their whole committee today was just, and they're still going at it right now.
Right.
Their whole day was nothing but carbon sequestration bills, and it was pretty heated. Danny McCormick and Chuck Owen, they were going at it down there and making really great arguments. But you got to understand the most powerful lobbyists in the state of Louisiana are all down there fighting for this.
That's how we know to run the other way. Run the opposite way that those lobbyists are. And look, not that all lobbyists are evil and bad, but they're all have their own interests, and it's self-interest. They're not in the interest of the folks. Well, only their small circle of folks.
Well, but they have a job. Their job is to try to convince the legislators, and they serve a purpose. That's to go this way or that way on issues and to help to inform them and to answer questions. But the information they provide is to steer it in the direction that their employer wants it steered.
Right.
Bottom line.
Simple. Yeah, it's like a lawyer. They got a job to do, a job they get paid to do. We make fun of them, but we get it and we understand it. All right. I don't know. There's a lot of others. A lot of other stuff we can. Do we want to go? And we're kind of helter-skelter here tonight because I'm all over the map.
Let's not get off of this SWEPCO thing.
Okay.
Now.
Yeah, that is a pressing thing. It's going to happen again.
Yeah, so we jokingly are talking about Adam Bass and his nuclear bill, and honestly, I'm only half joking. In all seriousness, yes, that's right, Kara. I have my birthday shirt on, not the lime green one, but anyway, I would fit in as a Colombian drug lord, definitely. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The Bass nuclear bill, Adam Bass, our senator. I didn't know anything about it, but apparently, before this power outage, because this would have been a bill he would have had to have pre-filed, but it as I appreciate it, and I messaged him and asked him to kind of drop in the show to explain his bill and kind of talk about it a little bit. He's probably scared to come on here because
he doesn't have time for us little folks now.
Yeah, just a little old bossierwatch.
Yeah, but no influence. And hey, hold that thought for a second. Did you know that we're clickbaiters?
Are we?
That's literally why I'm talking about home nuclear reactors, because we're clickbaiters. We're trying to get people to watch this show. Did you know that? Did you realize that I didn't like to talk to you every Tuesday night by myself? I actually wanted folks to watch the show and join in the comments just so I wouldn't have to talk to you alone. And I'm sure you feel the same way about me. We clickbait. Did you know that?
Well, see, I thought clickbaiters was people that tried to get people to watch things and to touch things so they can make money off of it and all that.
One person's clickbaiter is another person's attention seeker.
Yeah, but we don't make money off of this. We don't.
No, we literally pay the bills.
We lose money every single month.
Yeah, look, folks. in full disclosure, it costs us money to do this show, not including our time. And look, this isn't a woe is me deal, but it literally the software we use is non-free. I mean, we use a lot of free products. I mean, where we can, but
as much as possible.
This software and all the cute stuff you see around the graphics and all this kind of stuff, that's all not free stuff that we're using. It's no secret we're using AI. We pay for that, blah, 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 on and on. There's music licenses and all that when we do it, blah, blah, blah. It costs money to do this show.
I mean, it's the crazy Duke show. If you're crazy, you got to pay for it.
You got to make them pay for it all the time.
I think he was right.
Yeah. So, and we'll relate this back to the SWEPCO deal, but how it relates to this. The reason I bring that up is because we, as in bossierwatch, made a couple of posts about this issue, and Grady Davis, and what's his wife's name?
Well, I don't know Grady, so
the other Davis
maybe
girl.
I know Grady, but I can't remember Grady.
Anyway, they have a relationship with SWEPCO. I think he's either retired from SWEPCO, maybe still works for SWEPCO. I can't remember. But anyway, so they're on there defending SWEPCO. I mean, SWEPCO, you just may as well give it up. But anyway, said that we were doing nothing but clickbaiting and trying to get attention. Imagine that.
Okay. Well,
now here's the thing. Even in our analysis, like we've said from day one, for those of you that might, be new to the show or whatever, I'll keep it real brief. We talk about factual stuff, sometimes things that have been reported to us that we have a high likelihood of believing them to be true. And we always do inject our bias. If you want straight up news, go to some other news source and try to find one that's not biased. We just admit we're injecting our bias in literally almost everything we say, including when SWEPCO cuts the power with no notice, and it's not even thundering like it is right now. It was a bluebird day. And they can't give us a straight answer.
And couple that with all of a sudden, our senator in the district our senator up here has a bill putting forward rule or a method for the state to start promulgating rules regarding nuclear power in Louisiana.
SB 127, SB 127 by Adam Bass.
I just don't believe me. I mean, I got it in the folder if you wanted to show it, but I'm just saying I just found that to be odd, and I know you found it to be odd as well too.
Well, wait,
the timing.
Now I'm going to give everybody
was talking yesterday on his bill on the floor.
Let me put on my let me take off the bossierwatch hat here and put on my tinfoil hat for a minute and give everybody a preview of what we're going to release. Honestly, it'll be in jest. It will be clearly labeled tinfoil hat theory. But in 2023, SWEPCO did an RFP, a request for proposal, showing that they were going to have a 140 megawatt gap in service delivery of electricity by 2027. Guess how much gap in delivery they had when they cut the power Saturday? This is not us making this up. This is on SPP's own website. Guess how much that gap was, according to SPP? 140 megawatts. No. And it was on SWEPCO's end. We're the only ones that got cut, not the other 14 states. So, all of a sudden, that's mighty coincidental. And add in the fact, now that's not even discounting when the wind was blowing at the beginning of the month and they cut the power. Now add in the fact, like you said, that Adam Seabass was literally just talking about, we're not kidding with these small nuclear reactors. I'm just adding the word home in there because I want a small home thermonuclear reactor. Why not? But he is literally putting forward this bill. And so
you ain't Iranian, are you?
No. Back to the Future.
Okay. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Doc had one. Remember, in the car. in the DeLorean. When he came
I'm
back,
just saying, but
when he came back,
the
he powered it.
Iranians
Well, when he came back from the future, instead of electricity to power it, he had a small thermonuclear reactor. I think it'd be great. I would even take the
I know, but
DeLorean too.
all the Iranians want nukes too. So you know,
The
you never
Iranians were
know.
trying to kill Doc. Remember, it was an '80s movie, and the Iranians were always the terrorists. But I digress.
That's right.
All
That's
right.
right. All right, keep going. You were doing good, and I screwed you up. Keep going.
Well, that's okay. So now we have this grid instability with SWEPCO, the power being cut. Maybe that's to prime us all to get on board with these small thermonuclear home reactors that they're trying to tout. And look, I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with it too. In fact, I'm on board with it. But I think there's more to it than just that.
Oh.
I think maybe, just maybe, we need more power for more things. Maybe like, well, you're a computer guy. Don't things like data centers take a lot of power?
Oh, but they do. Now, let's put on our other tinfoil hat. You know, Bossier did not get the data center that they're putting over, isn't it in Richland Parish, I think?
That'd be correct.
Bossier Parish did not get that data center. Now they've clipped the power, and we obviously have some sort of power issues around here going on. Something's going on. I mean, we all know that. Just anecdotal evidence. My power's been out more in the last couple of years than it's been in the last 20, including storms. So there's that anecdotal evidence. But now we didn't get this data center. The data center's in Richland Parish. Richland Parish is not covered by SWEPCO. I mean, if Zuckerberg's smart, he's going to get one of these small nuclear reactors and power his own data center or put in his own solar farm. That'd be a lot of solar panels, but there's a lot of farmland over there.
Well, as I appreciate it, the power needs over there came from whatever the power generation place or whatever towards New Orleans, that's where that power went to. But if they came up short down there, maybe they had to tag into this system up here. I think they swap all that stuff around a bunch. But either way, like you said, I've not heard the plausible answer. I think, like you said, there's still unanswered questions to this whole saga, and
they didn't answer it today. They did not.
And maybe Bass's bill is connected. Maybe it's not. I mean, and
maybe we just need to
try to address.
Maybe we just need to follow the money. The old simple rule: follow the money. Because think about it this way. So billions of potential federal subsidies would be on the table for first movers in the small nuclear home reactor deployment. Utilities that can justify, I'm reading straight from my analysis, utilities that could justify this urgent need could get really nice deals from Department of Energy, Department of Defense, private investors. Faster permitting, federal cash equals lots of revenue streams. So I'm not accusing Seabass of anything. I am all on board with these small reactors. Everybody, a nuclear reactor in everybody's home. Go off grid. We can sell power back to SWEPCO and help SWEPCO with their power generation and distribution and transmission problems. Problem solved. We want our nuclear reactors. Send the plutonium by FedEx.
We need to talk to Lisa Johnson and find out where she's at on this. Is the chamber on board or not? Need to find out.
We do. So I'll be releasing that analysis. Again, full disclaimer, it will be a tinfoil hat theory and analysis. All right? Just to make that clear. So if somebody says, y'all are just doing clickbait again, I can just go back and pull up the clip where I just said that it's tinfoil hat analysis. I even put a UFO in it.
Well, I've got two things in the notes that I wanted to talk about. And one of them was, did you see this deal about the Mississippi River diversion, the Barataria Bay diversion, is one of the things that it was going to get Representative Orgeron to address and kind of talk about.
Educate
But
me.
well, that big diversion project that they had put forward to try to divert, sediment coming down the Mississippi to build more land and all out there, and they were doing it. It was
Right.
going in the project, and then all of a sudden, inexplicably, Jeff Landry shut it down, right?
Oh,
And so then everybody's down there losing their mind. I mean, and there's some people that I know down there. I wouldn't call them leftists, but they're moderates. Pro. I mean, look, I'm a conservationist. I think all hunters are conservationists to a point. And but a lot of these people were like really criticizing Jeff Landry and going after him, and for supposedly shutting this thing down. And if you go to the
first link.
notes and first link,
Right.
even the Louisiana Democrats were going after Jeff, and I'm not just trying to carry. Is that the first one?
I
Interesting.
thought it.
It came.
I thought it was, but let me make sure. Hold on. Let me switch screens again. Patience.
Where my
Yeah,
cursor is.
yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, that's the
It
first
came up
link.
different from me.
Well,
Anyway, well, that's
the
fine.
first link. But anyway, yeah, that's it. Hold on. All right, so I'm going to switch screens back. That's technical
Go to the
difficulties.
one.
Just a moment, folks.
Go to the one on the bottom. I just.
All right, let's look at that one. Let me copy it. Let me paste it. And patience, folks, patience. No, it's literally taking me to the same thing. I mean, it's got Landry's post under it.
Well, anyway, so the original post. I mean that's yeah, the Louisiana Democrats. There, I see it at the top now. See at the top, Louisiana Democrats.
Right.
So the Louisiana Democrats shared John Bel Edwards thing and whatever, and they're saying Jeff Landry picked a fight he can't win. And then they're talking about the Army Corps engineers suspended the permit because Landry's own team refused to do the work, not because of John Bel Edwards, because Landry blamed John Bel Edwards. Well, if you scroll down right there and you see kind of the chain, it you see at the bottom, Jeff Landry, shockingly, Governor John Bel Edwards hid reports from the Army Corps engineers simply to get the permit to do the Barataria Bay, diversion thing.
Right.
And then you see John Bel Edwards. Anybody that maintains that I or my administration withheld information from the Corps is flat out wrong. Unfortunately, Governor Landry once again has his facts wrong. The state of Louisiana was always an excellent partner. And basically saying that, it's not true that they didn't do what they were supposed to, blah, 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 and that it's basically Landry's fault. But the problem is if you go to cut 1, 2, and 3, the actual letter from the Army Corps of Engineers, and you'll see the little highlighted portions that I put in this letter, that's not exactly what they say. And I'll let you read those because I can't read them.
All right, so I'm reading the yellow highlighted portion. This is to Mr. Gordon E. Dove, April the 25th of this year. Highlighted portion number 1A, during the DA permit evaluation process, the state deliberately withheld information from MVM that the state knew it should provide to MVM for MVM's consideration whether to include that information in the MBSD environmental impact statement. That's an interesting choice of words there, Duke. Deliberately withheld information.
Now, that took place. That wasn't on Landry's watch. That was on JBE's watch.
Right. Yeah. And then the next highlighted thing was, let's see, PPG's concerns regarding compliance with National Flood Insurance Program requirements in light of the increased water levels to be caused by operation of MBSD. Let's see. Do we need to go to cut 2?
Yep.
All right, so hold on just a second. I'm going to drag cut 2 over here. Highlighted portion again.
Yep.
All right. So I'm reading again from this report. It says, such as increased water levels and tidal flooding in communities within 10 miles to the north and 20 miles to the south of the diversion outfall, increased storm surge impacts, particularly on communities and not protected by levees, highlighted greatly reduced abundance of brown shrimp and eastern oyster and the cultural and economic losses and functional extinction of 3 of the 4 subpopulations of BBES, bottlenose dolphins, and severe reduction of the 4th subpopulation of BBES, dolphin stock, and overall 97% reduction compared to no action. That sounds bad. That's not nice to kill dolphins.
Well, not just kill them, we're going to make them go extinct. Now, I don't understand, why are the tree huggers all mad at Jeff Landry? Because they're talking about in here under the previous deal, they were going to drive one of these things to extinction. That don't sound like tree huggers to me.
Well, tree huggers only hug trees when they need to forward their own agenda. Let's put it that way.
So, in conclusion, on the third page or whatever, this suspension is based on the state's actions, including failures to act or to obtain compromise. How is that Landry's fault? The Army Corps of Engineers suspended the project. It wasn't Jeff Landry, and Jeff Landry just called it out and blamed it.
Well, it's kind of like this whole electric deal. Everybody's blaming SWEPCO because it was literally only SWEPCO's part of the grid, but SWEPCO didn't do it, and the SPP guy fell on the sword, but he did, shift a little bit of the burden to the SWEPCO guy, but it's kind of the same thing. When you get caught with your hand in the cookie jar, you got to blame the other sibling.
Yeah. And some people blame Landry of politicizing it, but it sure seems like to me the shoe is on the other foot.
Look, I get tired when people say, don't politicize politics. I mean, think about that for a second. Don't politicize that. It's politics.
Well, that's not the only house cleaning that I have to do. Okay, so I carried a little bit of the Landry water there.
Right.
And now, Nancy, speaking of other Landrys, I want to take a shot at another Landry. So I've got a let's see, where's it at?
This letter?
Yes. Okay.
Let me see if I can share. I think I can do it this way. We'll see. It'll work or not. Oh yeah. Okay.
So I highlighted some portions of a letter. This is, and I don't know this. I didn't receive this letter, obviously, but in our legislature, our Secretary of State, Nancy Landry, is allegedly sent this letter out to all of our legislators. And so
fully auditable. Wait a minute. I can already see something that caught my eye. Fully auditable voting system.
Oh yeah. So I want people to, look, me and Rex have a little bit of a different view on election systems, voting machines, and we've covered all of that for a long time, and we've debated it, talked about it, had several shows where we kind of went through these things. So we had a contentious Secretary of State's race, when we had the governor's race, and you had a candidate who advocated for hand-marked paper ballots, and there's a large following of people who don't trust our elections. We've seen more and more information come out over time about there being a lot of questionable things that have taken place across the country in election processes. across the board. But what you have in Louisiana currently, we have a situation where we're ranked as having the second best election system in the nation. That's quote
That's
unquote our ranking.
odd.
Well,
Oddly refreshing.
yeah, oddly refreshing, but why is that? I think it's because we've got the oldest machines and nobody's operating on technology that they can really hack as easy as they can the new stuff.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm trying to remember at one time I was discussing with the guy that manages the building where they store the voting machines and all that. And they were having trouble getting some of the parts, like if a circuit board had an issue or whatever. And I was just thinking to myself, those are Dominion machines. I don't know who the hardware vendor is for the circuit board. I would assume it comes through Dominion. But I guess at some point they could just say, we're not manufacturing any more parts for those. You got to upgrade. They could force upgrade.
Yeah, they could. They could. But in this letter, if this is correct, you got to the first highlighted part, there's a lot of things that are said in here this was all sent to our legislators, and our legislators are, they're trying to force us spending, I forget how many millions of dollars, but it's a lot. It is a hell of a lot of money to force us to buy an election system. And Dominion's in there. A lot of these systems, ES&S, with all of these problems, are right here in the mix for all of our money. And I would contend that a lot of people, like you, Rex, they fall on the side of let's do the computers. They don't want to do any of they don't want to mess with all the stuff. We should trust doing it on computers, and they're not as scared of them, as what a lot of people are. I get that, and I appreciate that. But all I care about is if we can, I don't care if it's on the machine. If you can explain to me when the finger from my hand touches that screen, and from that moment, my intent, when it travels through the circuitry and arrives at the destination of being a vote, if you can audit that and show me how that's done and prove to me that my vote was recorded exactly as I intended it to, you know what? I'm good. But you can't do that. Nobody can do that.
I can't currently, but the hell I can't if I were in charge of it. I would have a fully auditable, you would get a paper receipt with a pseudo-random number that would associate the number of votes. And if there's a question, those receipts that would be printed to you, recorded and printed to you. Hold on. Let me finish.
You're right. I'm agreeing. Yeah.
And would be given to the precinct captain or whoever it is. They all have to match, or we know the machine somehow was rigged with, I don't want fully auditable damn elections. I want fully auditable, basically open source code, period, so that programmers can scrutinize the code. That doesn't mean everybody gets access to the machines. Everybody gets access to the underlying source code that's used on the machines. Or, even better, I'm a proponent of getting away from the secret ballot, because then you have an actual fully auditable trail. A lot of people are against that because, it could be used against you, blah, blah, blah. I don't fall for that.
I'm not going to your second point because that's not even plausible. But to the first point
it
you
is
made,
for me.
I 100%, it is for me too. But for the first point, I 100% agree with you, but it will never happen. Politicians and the secretaries of state will not allow that to happen. They're not going to allow it to be open source. Not ours. She's not going to allow it to happen.
No, because then there's actual accountability. And before anybody says, open source, they'll hack it. Let me remind everybody what basically the entire internet runs on. It's not Microsoft code. It's not Apple code. It's Unix-based servers, which are literally open source.
Yeah. So Nancy Landry in this letter, she says, and I highlight it, With the recent announcement that we are now ranked second in the nation for election integrity, we are one step closer to being at the top. But we won't get there unless we also procure a new, fully auditable system. And we're second with a system that we don't have any auditing now, or we have a sort of form of risk limiting auditing that is supposed to be the gold standard of auditing, but fully auditable voting system. So Rex, do you
All right.
think that we
Let
will
me.
ever have a fully auditable system? Is she going to allow that? If somebody wanted to fully
No,
audit
because
the
they're
whole
all
state of Louisiana,
morons. You got
okay.
people in charge of this who are not either not technology people, and I don't necessarily mean computer people. I mean technology. Even if you wanted to go to a paper system, it's the technology of the paper system. They are not experts in that. You have the inmate. Well, it's not really the inmates running the asylum, but they're just not experts in it. They're just not. It would be like, it would be like, I don't know, having a movie star astronaut in charge of SpaceX instead of real rocket scientists and a guy who literally basically is a rocket scientist now, even though he's the world's richest guy. It's the same type of principle.
I have a different take on it. I don't think they're morons. I don't think that is all. I think they're government cheese. I think they're government cheese because it's easier just to pay somebody else who is willing to sign their name on the dotted line to say, oh, I will ensure that this is the way it's supposed to be, because they can't do it and they don't want to do it. It's too much work. We will just, oh, wait a minute, we'll just contract that with a subcontractor to validate or verify that we're meeting and checking all the boxes, and it's never ever checked by somebody else.
I'll give you the real analogy from a tech guy perspective. All right, look, all joking, all morons aside, although this is moronic. Do you know part of the reason that healthcare costs what it does? I can say this for an absolute fact because I know it to be true myself. It is not my truth, it's the truth, a fact. Do you know part of the reason why healthcare is so expensive?
Why no, Rex, I don't. Please tell me.
Because doctors' offices and hospitals do everything in their power to make things as complicated as they can, not as technologically easy as they can. I'm going to not name specific doctors' offices, but I have helped with doctors' offices with their tech and other things. And you would think that doctors' offices, the medical practice of all things, would just be up to date completely on technology. And newsflash, no, they're not, because somebody's brother-in-law's brother-in-law had this company and they want to get the contract for this software that's supposed to make everything easier, but they don't factor in the transition to it and all this. And then they're going to change it in 3 or 4 years because the other system didn't work. And our healthcare costs just keep going up and up and up and up. This is the same thing. I think it's somebody's brother-in-law's, sister-in-law's, uncle's deal type situation. And rather than putting everybody's best interests actually at the forefront as far as voters go and the systems that we need to trust the elections, instead they're not. Maybe they're not directly, maybe Nancy Landry's not directly making any money off of this deal, but somebody is, and she has been influenced and is making the decision to allow those people, even if she's doing it unwittingly, to make a boatload of money off of it. It's that simple.
Well, this letter, because there's some things that are put in here that are just not, I'm going to be nice, they're just not true and just not accurate. Right. And like right here, this first sentence, she goes on to say, sadly, there are some who have continued to spread false information about how our elections work now and how they will work once we procure our next voting system. These individuals lack any experience in conducting elections. Now, I don't know who all she's referring to, but since I am opposed to what she has been favoring in the past, which is the ES&S machine that prints out this little piece of paper that is said to ensure that your vote is cast within the machine electronically correctly. No, to me, that does not prove that just because it has a typewriter that prints out what I chose doesn't mean that it's recorded in the machine exactly what printed on the paper. That does not prove it. That doesn't do it for me.
Correct.
And
Unless you can
so,
trace it back.
unless you can trace it back. But if you believe that and you say that, then that means you're, according to our Secretary of State, you're putting out false information. So she's saying that you're lying, that's not true. But yet, if you were to ask her to audit how your vote or to verify it, I don't think they've got a way that they can do it.
All right, so let's back up. We've explained this at least once or twice before on the show. But let's look at the case of Ruth Pope Johnson versus Vince Maggio. That was a very close race. What was it? 30-something votes, 38 votes or something, 35. Anyway,
Yep.
Very close race. And so let's say that Ruth wanted to have a recount because it was such a close race, which would be, a legitimate request if she chose to do that. All right. Then, folks, y'all don't understand. They don't go back and count the votes. They can't. Because the machines tell them what the votes are. The only votes that they would be able to audit and recount are the mail-in ballots. Other than that, they're just going to go back to the same slips that the machines spit out already, and that all the Board of Election Supervisors literally signed your names to those little printed out receipts. And as I've said before, it's all open meetings. You can go up there and observe the process if you don't believe what I'm saying.
Well, so that yeah, you're right, Rex. But there is more, these older machines, there is something, and even on these new Dominion machines, there is something that you can get if you wanted to check it and you wanted it. It's called the cast vote record.
The optional double, we promise that everything's good, print out, wink, wink.
Oh yeah. You can get, even off of those old machines, you can get the cast vote record. And what will the cast vote
print it
record?
out? They print it out in bigger font that says, "We really, really, really promise that this election is
Right.
fair. Thank you, Dominion."
But the cast vote record shows at every moment, so like, let's say there's 4 machines sitting inside the voting precinct, and somebody walks in and they go on machine number 1 and they vote and they choose their selections. Somebody goes in number 2, they vote, and those selections, somebody goes into number 3. They all leave. 10 minutes later, somebody goes into 1. Then 10 minutes later, somebody goes into 3. Well, each one of those machines create a cast vote record. And in that record, at the time that those votes were cast, it logs. It's basically like a log file of what votes were cast for what person at every moment, right?
Okay.
It doesn't say who voted for those people at those moments, but it just says what votes were cast. And you say, well, what would be the big deal in that, of getting that? Shouldn't be any big deal at all, right?
Right.
Apparently it is a big deal. Apparently it is a big deal, because allegedly, when you ask the Secretary of State's office for these documents or for this, and there have been some cases in the past years where, 1, they just outright refused to provide it. And then 2, there was a congressional race here not long ago where it was asked for, and they quoted them a price to provide it of $75,000. Now, how many people will spend $75,000, and do you really believe that it takes $75,000 to generate a digital cast vote record, like almost in an Excel spreadsheet of all the times of all the votes cast, even in a race for the whole state of Louisiana?
Don't make
Do
me
you
comment
really
on that,
believe
but
that?
because they probably paid some Indian programmer $5 to program that into the system, and it's an optional checkbox in the system.
But the point is they don't want to turn that data over.
I thought, see,
maybe it does take a.
I had this completely wrong. You were describing that whole scenario about when they go into the voting booth and all that, and I thought you were going to describe for me that when you cast your vote, it was like a game show, and a flashing yellow light started going on the voting machine. It made a big dinging noise. It threw confetti in the air and proclaimed who you voted for so that you would know your vote was cast right.
No, that's Motor City Council here pretty soon. But
I thought it was going to be game show time for the voting booth.
no.
Okay.
But anyway, back to Landry.
All right,
So she
yes.
says these individuals have resorted to personal attacks and threats, and they won't be satisfied until we move to a hand-counted ballot system. And let me be clear, there is currently no state in the country that runs a statewide hand-marked, hand-counted voting system, because it could mean waiting days or weeks for results and an unacceptable error rate of anywhere from 8 to 42%.
That's a
Rex,
big range.
like in, do you not realize that there's error rates in the machines that you're using right now? She sure didn't say that. And what those error rates are is, we've had, in fact, in Bossier City, in Maggio's district, and that was one of the things that I think was being considered of having a recount in Maggio's district, because prior to Maggio running, the race for that council district seat in Bossier City was overturned after a recount, because when they went back, like you said, going back and actually looking at every single ballot, they're not recounted. They're not. It's not. But they went back and it completely changed the outcome of the election. There is already a built-in error rate in our current elections right now.
Well, sure,
Most
because
people
look,
don't know that.
when you do the mail-in ballots, you gotta fill in the little oval deal or whatever, and sometimes those marks are not interpreted by the machine correctly. Sometimes they're not marked correctly. Sometimes I've been on the board of election supervisors. Sometimes they're double marked, and so there is an error rate. Nothing. I would argue, even if we went completely to your system that you advocate for, Duke, and I don't disagree with it, but even then, we're not going to have a 100% perfect rate. You're just not going to have it.
Correct. I agree with that. But let me refresh you now on like all of the mail-in ballots with the little ovals,
Right.
how it's done now. They're still not all one by one checked. They run them through the scanner, and the machine, and I think it's Dominion, looks at every one of the ballots and it picks which ones are errors and which ones are not.
Surprise,
and those
surprise.
are the only ones that you look at and adjudicate. So
Correct.
a human's not looking at it. Again, the machines are making the determination, and nobody goes behind them and check them. Now, you can call for a recount and you can go back and look at every one of them yourself. But if you ask for a recount, well, you're Satan.
Well, not just that. You're Satan who has to have a credit card, because you got to pay for it.
And to this point that she's saying, because it could mean waiting days or weeks for results.
Right.
Well, I argued this. That's our problem. We are spoiled that we want the answer and outcome of the election the day of the election. I think that the votes should all end on a certain specific date, but the determination of the results and counting, why is it that we have to make people do these superhuman acts, these registrar of voter offices and all these ladies? why are they having to kill themselves, and they can't even open the mail ballots to count those until the day of the election? That's just go. Bo is playing around, but I don't think we
technical
should.
difficulties.
I don't think we should wait. I mean, demand that it has to be done day of election. We should be able to keep going. But wait a minute.
No, and look, I want to remind folks, what does the news media say when they're announcing the election results? What word do they use to describe, what adjective do they use to describe the results the evening of? What do they always say? It starts with the letter P. Projected winner.
That's right. You could take that out of the equation as well too. So she said in that letter, keeping on, and I'm getting to the good part. She says, I support the president's call for a system based on paper ballots. Well, to my knowledge, what she's talking about, and I've not heard any different, but is basically the ES&S machine that generates that piece of paper saying how the computer registered your vote. With, again, to my knowledge, no accountability unless she can explain it different. But here's the real rub right here. And read that next sentence, Rex. I want you to read it.
Wait a minute. All right. So,
During
the highlighted part.
Yep.
During my campaign in 2023, the candidate supported by this small but loud group of individuals promised to move Louisiana to a hand-counted system and guaranteed that President Trump would be endorsing him. That endorsement never came, and he received 6% of the vote. However, President Trump did endorse my campaign.
Well, how about that? Did you know, because she's talking about Brandon Trosclair.
Right.
Did you know that President Trump endorsed her in that race?
I had no idea.
You believe that's what she's saying, right?
Well, that's what she said. She said President Trump did endorse her campaign. And look, in full disclosure, I did end up voting for Brandon Trosclair.
Okay. Well, would you go back to the notes page? And I have a link at the bottom of Nancy Landry's letter. And I want you to go to that link.
Okay. Hold on just a second here. Let's go to this, and let me click that, and that, and this, and this, and then let me go back to here. Okay. Republican Party of Louisiana's Post, dated November 16th, 2023. Important message from Trump. President Donald J. Trump has just announced his endorsements for Louisiana Attorney General, State Treasurer, and Secretary of State. Our Republican nominees, Liz Muriel for Attorney General, John Fleming for Treasurer, and Nancy Landry for Secretary of State, are outstanding in every way and have my complete and total endorsement. With my endorsement, Jeff Landry made history by flipping the seat, blah, 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 blah. We need Republican leadership in the great state. Okay.
That's enough. So, you know what race Brandon Trosclair was in? It wasn't on November, whatever that is, November the 18th. He was in the general election in October the 14th.
Oh.
Trump didn't endorse anybody in October of 14.
Oh, so you're saying Nancy's lying? Or
I'm just saying,
stretching the truth.
Well, did she not just say that she was endorsed and was referencing the opponent that was talking about? Read it again.
She said, look, it's word salad here. That endorsement never came, and he received 6% of the vote. However, President Trump did endorse her campaign, which on its technical merits, it's a little word salad, a little politician-like.
Well, that using terminology and words like that is exactly who I want to trust with my vote with a paper, and wants me to believe her that the machine is just going to naturally log it correctly. Oh, that instills a lot of trust in me.
Look, and people say, they go, I forget the Bible verse, forgive me, that, we basically should render unto Caesar and we should believe our leaders and just trust in our leaders. But also remind people of Jesus literally flipping over those tables for the money changers and fashioning his own whips, which means he premeditatively wanted to beat the hell out of them. There's that whole side of it. I'm not suggesting anybody needs to fashion whips and beat the hell out of Nancy Landry or any other politician. I'm just saying that I agree with your point that we shouldn't just trust and believe in our leaders just because they're elected officials. That's literally why I call most of them by their first names. It's not because I don't respect them. It's just because they're an elected official. That's it.
Yeah, and most people are running for office because look, they're out for their own self-interest, and I've had, I don't know, I've had enough. Hey, on a different note, I got another cut 6.
Okay.
You gotta go to that.
All right.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah, and I'll need to get to a question that Miss Jerry had earlier. Don't let me forget that. But let's go to cut 6.
You can go to that, or we can.
Well, her question is, let me put it up there real quick. Her question was, the chamber is not a voter-appointed politician, or is it, well, whatever, able position. The chamber, I guess she's referring to the Chamber of Commerce? Because we did mention Lisa. The Chamber of Commerce is a private organization.
Yeah, no, the Chamber of Commerce is a private organization that represents, it's supposed to be the voice of business. They're out to promote the interests of, supposed to be small and large business. I know that there's a lot of small businesses that have had some grievances with the chamber, and that they've not been enough supportive of small business. But you could argue that with a lot of organizations,
Sure.
lobby as well. I think lobby has failed small business in the state of Louisiana, and
well, not just that. Remember,
business.
lobby brought Common Core, literally brought Common Core math into the state. They're the reason it was here originally. And I'll say this too, and nothing against the chamber, because we make fun of Lisa, even though she's now, I guess, reneging on her bungee jumping deal. But the chamber does some good stuff. And in full disclosure, I think you and Kara were or are members of the chamber, right?
We joined again, but I got to tell you, it's positional. You never know. I mean, we are.
Full disclosure, I'm not a member of the Bossier Chamber. Nothing that I really have against them. It's just, well, they don't do anything for me. So, it's kind of like the Better Business Bureau. Most people think that's a government organization. It's a private organization too. But anyway, I digress. All right, you want to go to cut 6?
Yes. Yeah, I thought it was funny.
Yeah. Let's see. You're here illegally and are charged with robbery, assault, squatting, rape, and murder. What do you have to say? I'll vote Democrat. And the jackass dismissed the case. That's pretty much fitting.
That's pretty much the truth. That's what. But hey, look, we're getting judges finally getting frog marched for stuff like this. So
yeah, I've noticed. Isn't that interesting?
Things are changing. Things are changing.
Yes, they are. Slowly but surely, one deal at a time. And look, folks, you can say what you want about social media, good and bad. I contend we're living in the information age. Social media isn't making us act the way that we act. It is literally revealing how people already are, and the things that they used to say around water fountains and, at the dinner table and all that. It's just people put it on blast now.
Yes, they do. So, anyway, that is all I have for tonight.
That's all the ranting and raving I can do as well. Thank you, Mr. Lowry, for another entertaining show. Officially 256, but of course we've done a lot more than that. We thank everybody for watching. I want to say, did you know that our analysis of SWEPCO is up to over 16,000 views in like just a little over 24 hours.
Wow,
I would say that's a
to,
hot topic.
yeah, that is a hot topic. I think it's going to
Hot
get
topic.
hotter. Hopefully, hopefully we can get the legendary nuclear senator from Bossier to grace us with his presence.
Adam
and
Seabass.
tell us, and
Paging Adam Seabass. Paging Adam Seabass.
I just want to know when I can get my nuclear reactor, and I know you do too.
I do too. Look, I'll settle. I don't have to have the DeLorean. We can just put it in the back of my boat. How about that? That is speechless. Or you're getting curse word text now.
No, I was getting a text, and hey, if anybody needs a home loan or you need to refinance,
Yeah.
Acadiana Mortgage, 1017 Benton Road. I got a wife that would love to visit with you and talk about it.
She needs all the business she can get. Send it her way. All right,
Well,
Mr.
we do
Lowry.
need to eat, definitely.
Yes. Yeah, that's always a good
Eating
thing. All
is
right,
good.
so next Tuesday, we may have a deep dive into insurance on tap. We may have a guest on board that some of you are going to like and some of you are going to hate. That could be interesting. It could be Bamberg, could be Seabass. I mean, they're all in insurance. Could be Seabiscuit. He's like literally a lawyer for insurance. But it could be interesting.
See, Biscuit is allergic to our show.
He is.
He's allergic to our show. I mean, we've offered countless times. He'll never come on our show.
No, but we'll still make fun of him either way.
Wait a minute, I'm gonna say this because he's scared to debate us.
He is.
He's scared to debate us.
He is. All right. That's it. Anything else, Mr. Lowry? Going once. Going twice. Take us out, Mr. Lowry.
See y'all.